In a time long past, when gods roamed the earth side by side with mere mortals, the atmosphere carried a heavy weight of tension that was almost palpable. The boundaries between the divine and human worlds grew thin and intertwined, blending together in ways both subtle and profound. Hidden watchers, beings unseen and silent, observed the unfolding events with keen interest, their presence a quiet force in the background. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the first murmurs of a shifting balance of power began to ripple and spread, signaling that something new and momentous was about to emerge on the far horizon, forever altering the relationship between gods and men. Ogun, the mighty and revered blacksmith, labored tirelessly and in solitude within the glowing heat of his forge. Each swing of his hammer rang out like a powerful drumbeat, echoing through the cavernous space as he shaped and molded weapons of extraordinary strength and formidable power. These were no ordinary tools. They were forged with skill and magic, destined to influence the course of wars and alter fate itself in ways far beyond the understanding of mere mortals. His craftsmanship held the power to change the very fabric of destiny, wielding influence that could tip the scales of battles and reshape history according to his will. Adediyo, recognized and revered as the chosen warrior among his people, gripped Ogun's blade firmly in his hands, treating it not merely as a weapon but as a sacred promise etched in steel. From the moment of his birth, it was clear he was destined to wield an extraordinary divine power, an inheritance far beyond the reach of ordinary mortals. When Ogun, the god of iron and war, sent out his call to find a champion worthy of his strength and purpose, Adediyo was the very first to rise, answering that summons without hesitation. Though human by birth, he was forged into something far fiercer and more formidable by the relentless fire of his trials and unwavering spirit, always moving forward under the steady guidance and watchful eye of a powerful god whose will directed every step he took. Chango, the mighty lord of storms and thunder, observed the unfolding conflict with intense focus and a keen eye. This battlefield was destined to be far more than a mere test of physical strength and sharpened steel. It would be a fierce proving ground for the full, unrelenting fury of thunder itself. The warriors engaged were not ordinary beings, but allies brought together and forged by the divine hands of gods, their power and resolve intertwined with celestial forces. As their weapons met and their powers surged, the sound of their fierce clash would not only resonate here below, but would ripple outward, echoing powerfully through the vast expanse of both the heavens above and the great earth beneath. Ogun's fierce warriors advanced steadily, their hearts burning with unwavering determination and their minds sharp with the certainty of victory. Each step they took resonated with the strength of their ancestors, and the clashing of their weapons filled the air with a fierce, resonant song that echoed like thunder across the battlefield. These warriors bore not only steel and iron, but also the weight of iron-willed resolve, ready to crush any opposition that dared to challenge their might. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the wide and tumultuous field, the divine forces of Olokun stood poised, their presence both terrifying and majestic. Like the restless ocean depths they commanded, these mystical beings were prepared to unleash a tidal wave of power, an overwhelming flood of sea and shadow intended to swallow whole this mortal uprising before it could even take root. Their patience had worn thin, and now, with the dark waters at their backs and the shadows creeping like tendrils in the air, they waited, ready to engulf and extinguish the flickering flame of rebellion once and for all. From the very depths of the vast, endless ocean Olokun emerged, the ancient and revered guardian of the sea and the keeper of its countless mysteries. His presence was commanding and filled with a timeless authority that stretched back through countless generations. Alongside him, his formidable forces gathered, united in their solemn mission to restore the fragile balance that had been upset. They watched with growing concern as humanity's power swelled and spread unchecked, wielding strength that seemed to challenge even the natural order itself. These forces feared the chains that men had willingly accepted, the unyielding bonds they now carried, forged by the will and relentless influence of Ogun, the god of iron and war. Driven by a sense of duty and a commitment to preserve the essence of the sea's mysteries, Olokun and his followers prepared to act against the rising human dominance, determined to reclaim what had been lost and to remind the world of the enduring power that lay beneath the waves. The hands of Ogun crafted these weapons with meticulous care, breathing life into each blade. Every edge thrummed with a powerful energy that stretched back beyond the dawn of history, rooted in a force ancient and ineffable. These blades did not merely exist. They carried whispers of battles yet to be fought, of triumphs that history had not yet recorded. In their presence, mortals found themselves irrevocably intertwined with a higher fate, their destinies woven tightly into the tapestry of the divine. Each weapon was not just a tool of war, but a sacred link between the earthly realm and the timeless essence of the gods, forever binding those who wielded them to a path shaped and sanctified by the gods. The mortals below had now come into possession of tools that once belonged solely to the gods themselves. This unsettling revelation caused the delicate and once stable truce among the celestial beings to falter, trembling on the brink of collapse. As the eternal stars shone silently overhead, the balance of power that had long been assumed immutable began to shift unpredictably, casting a shadow of uncertainty across the realms both divine and earthly. The young warrior dedicated himself tirelessly to perfecting his skills, spending countless hours practicing with unwavering focus and determination. Each powerful swing of Ogun's sword was imbued with the careful balance of raw strength and measured restraint, a dance of deadly precision forged through discipline and experience. In every movement, there was a story of growth, a silent testament to the transformation underway. A mortal man pushing the limits of his endurance and skill. As the dark clouds of an ominous war gathered on the horizon, he stood at the cusp of greatness, slowly carving his name into the annals of legend amid the escalating chaos and the ever-deepening storm. Ogun's tireless labor never once came to a halt, his hands ceaselessly moving in a relentless rhythm. The forge itself roared with a fierce and vibrant life all its own. In this sacred space, the raw power of iron and the burning strength of spirit came together in a molten dance, melding seamlessly to shape mighty tools and weapons. These creations held the power to uproot gods from their thrones or to stand as steadfast shields, guarding the delicate and flickering flame of humanity's fragile hope against an uncertain and often hostile world. The vow to wield strength as a shield for those in need, offering protection against harm and danger. Yet, alongside this power came an unspoken bond, a loyalty wrapped in invisible chains that bound him just as surely as any physical restraint could, tying him to a destiny few could ever truly understand or escape. The fierce battle, fueled by the unyielding courage and valor of mortal fighters, erupted violently against the relentless and untamable fury of the sea. Massive waves crashed with thunderous force, while the clash of steel rang out like a deadly symphony in the chaotic air. Ogun's warriors, driven by unwavering determination and the strength of their ancestors, pressed onward relentlessly against the yawning abyss before them. They stood firm and resolute, defying the ancient gods who had for countless ages ruled with unquestioned authority and power, refusing to bow to forces long believed invincible. Orunmila observed in silence, his gaze steady and knowing, fully aware that the delicate and intricate thread of fate had been altered in ways previously unimagined. The world of mortals had shifted dramatically. They now moved with a new rhythm, a bold dance that intertwined the raw power of mortal steel with the profound, time-honored knowledge of the unseen realms. This was no longer a simple existence, but a complex balance where humanity brushed against the divine, wielding forces both tangible and mystical, forever changing the landscape of destiny itself. Bound by blood and rivalry, the mighty brothers Ogun and Shango stood shoulder to shoulder against the very forces of fate that sought to define their paths. As Ogun, the god of iron and war, wielded his mighty hammer with relentless fury, Shango, the fierce lord of thunder and lightning, unleashed bolts of searing energy that split the skies. Their divine wills collided in a cataclysmic clash, each strike and flash igniting fierce bursts of power that shattered the celestial realm's once peaceful facade, exposing the fragile cracks beneath the heavens themselves. Their ambitions, blazing with unstoppable fire and unyielding strength, challenged the cosmos in an epic duel that echoed through eternity. Among the realm of mortals, quiet whispers began to ripple outward, spreading far and wide. Rumors that this newfound power carried with it immense and profound consequences. The elders, venerable and wise, watched with growing concern and apprehension, fearing deeply that the delicate balance of the world might be irrevocably shattered by its emergence. They trembled at the thought that such disruption would not escape the notice or displeasure of the gods, whose wrath could unleash devastation so overwhelming and terrible that it would reach far beyond the grasp of any mortal to withstand or repair. Ogun's forge was far more than just an ordinary fire burning in a blacksmith's workshop. It was the very heartbeat of creation itself, a powerful and sacred flame that forged not only weapons of immense strength and purpose, but also shaped the unfolding destiny of both gods and mortal beings alike. Every hammer strike that rang out from Ogun's mighty hands echoed through the fabric of existence, sending reverberations and subtle ripples that reached deep into the tapestry of mortal fate, altering the course of lives and the balance between worlds in ways unseen, yet profoundly felt. Through the firm and unyielding grip of Adedayo, the raw and untamed power found its way to the very surface of the earth itself, planting the seeds of hope and sparking the flames of defiance deep within the hearts of those who witnessed it. This weapon that he held was far more than mere cold, unfeeling steel. It embodied the very essence of a bloodline, a lineage that carried the weight and promise of a new era. This era was not born out of simple chance, but was carefully and reverently forged in sacred flames, a symbol of renewal and transformation that resonated with the spirit of those ready to rise and challenge whatever came before. The tempest unleashed by the storm god was not merely a natural phenomenon, but an overwhelming expression of divine anger and authority. His voice, a thunderous roar that echoed across the heavens and earth, served as a dire warning to all who heard it. It declared that the battles unfolding were far more than mere conflicts. They represented a critical turning point that would determine the destiny of both the immortal gods and the fragile mortal world alike. This fierce fury embodied a cosmic judgment, signaling that the outcome of these wars would reshape existence itself, affecting every realm under the watchful eyes of the divine. In their quest for survival and security, mortals immersed themselves in the teachings of Ogun, mastering his ancient and revered arts. The sacred dance of fire and iron. It was through this profound connection to Ogun's power that they began to understand not only how to create tools and weapons, but also how to shape the very course of their own lives. With each spark that flew from the anvil and each rhythmic movement in the forge, they were no longer merely crafting instruments of war or tools for daily use. Instead, they were forging their own destinies, weaving their futures with the strength and wisdom granted by the gods' ever-watchful guidance. The relationship between mortal and deity became a bond of transformation, where empowerment was born from the flames and the unyielding embrace of metal, marking the beginning of a new era defined by resilience and self-determination. Not everyone accepted this heavy burden without hesitation or doubt. The solemn pact required not just a simple agreement, but a deep well of courage and a willingness to make significant sacrifices. The fiery blaze of the forge did more than just melt and shape iron. It tempered the very soul and strengthened the resolve needed to stand boldly and unflinchingly before the gods themselves, without the slightest trace of fear. As great armies advanced stealthily, like fleeting shadows stretched across the vast and varied landscape, the sacred and once unyielding boundaries that separated the divine realms began to soften and erode. The power and control the gods once wielded with absolute certainty and unquestioned authority were no longer unchallenged or inviolable. Instead, mortal beings, ordinary humans with courage, ambition, and strength, began to assert themselves, carving out their own destinies and etching their names alongside those of ancient legends and mythical heroes. The world shifted beneath the feet of gods and men alike, as the line between divine supremacy and mortal achievement grew increasingly faint and indistinct. Orunmila's timeless wisdom served as a brilliant lighthouse, shining steadily amid the turbulent and unpredictable chaos that often engulfed the lives of mortals. Through his guidance, he illuminated the way, helping people navigate the complex and winding paths they faced each day. He encouraged them to seek a delicate balance in their journey, one where raw strength was harmoniously blended with deep wisdom, and where great power was always carefully tempered by a profound sense of responsibility. In doing so, Orunmila's teachings became a beacon of hope and clarity, enabling mortals to walk forward with purpose and integrity despite the storms around them. Ogun keenly sensed the shifting tides sweeping through the divine realm, a place once unchanging and steeped in eternal balance. His warriors' remarkable victories sent ripples of unease throughout the heavens, stirring waves of fear and envy among the other gods. This growing unrest was like an echo resonating deeply, threatening to disrupt and unravel the ancient and sacred order that had governed the gods since time immemorial. The foundations of divine power felt tremors as old alliances wavered in the face of newfound strength and ambition. Deep within the vast and unfathomable abyss, where light dared not venture and shadows clung to every crevice, the realm of Ogun lay in patient silence. This domain, an expanse of endless darkness and mystery, was governed by Ogun himself, a powerful deity revered as the god of the deep waters and all the hidden secrets they concealed. Unyielding and resolute, Ogun was not one to be easily swayed or broken by mortal or divine forces alike. His spirit was forged in the silent pressures of the ocean's depths, and his will was as relentless as the ceaseless currents. When wronged or challenged, his thirst for vengeance was inexorable, burning beneath the surface like a dormant storm. Yet it was not a whim of cruelty, but a fierce demand for balance, a cosmic equilibrium he upheld with unwavering determination. And when the time came, his retribution would surge forth with the overwhelming power of the tide itself, inevitable, unstoppable, and profound. Mortals who long ago were nothing more than faint shadows flickering in the background of divine stories and mythic legends have now risen with a powerful voice that echoes like thunder. United in a fierce and unstoppable chorus, they roar with a strength that commands attention and respect. Their unwavering faith, now forged and anchored in the unyielding strength of Ogun's mighty steel, serves as the foundation of their courage and resolve. With this sacred bond, they advance without hesitation, stepping boldly and fearlessly into the pages of history. Pages that are being etched and rewritten not with ink, but with the sweat, blood, and flames of their relentless struggle. Thus, these mortals transform themselves into heroes of living legend, carving a new destiny forged in the crucible of fire and sacrifice. Even beings as mighty and immortal as gods, whose desires and intentions often stood in stark opposition to one another, managed to discover a delicate and fragile balance between their conflicting wills. This uneasy alliance they formed was a tenuous thread holding together a temporary peace, one that was neither fully stable nor entirely secure. Beneath this fragile truce lay the ominous promise of upcoming storms, treacherous storms, turbulent and violent events that loomed on the horizon. Their shared future was thus shaped by the unpredictable forces of both the destructive chaos wrought by war and the tentative efforts toward cautious, fragile peace. In this precarious state, the world stood poised on the edge of transformation, carved out by these divine powers oscillating between conflict and conciliation. Victory was finally attained, yet the price paid for this triumph proved to be immensely steep and harrowing. The once vibrant fields, now stained and soaked with blood, seemed to whisper mournfully about the countless sacrifices rendered in the throes of battle, sacrifices that etched deep scars in the hearts of both gods and men alike. These two realms, divine and mortal, found themselves forever intertwined, their fates sealed and bound together by the relentless fires of conflict and the tenuous, delicate threads of a fragile truce barely holding them apart. From his anvil above, Ogun pondered fate. His creation's power surged beyond weapons. What began as craft became legend, binding mortals to gods in eternal struggle. Wisdom's hand reached out to guide Adadayo through uncertain futures. Survival would demand more than strength. It required foresight, patience, and the courage to change. Thunder met sea in a cosmic battle, Shango's fury crashing against Olokum's depths. Their conflict echoed the mortal world's own bloody dance of war and loyalty. Around humble fires, the spark of divine knowledge passed between generations. Ogun's gift was more than weapons. It was a legacy of resilience and self-reliance. The sacred blade bore marks of eternity, each rune tying mortal hearts to divine promises. Strength woven with the weight of responsibility and peril, bound by forged steel and unyielding hearts, the warriors charged. Their every step was a challenge cast against the gods, a testament to mortal valor crafted by divinity. Divine hearts clashed in councils high above. Their control was slipping, mortal hands now shaping fates, once sealed by gods alone. The heavens trembled with alone. Ogun hammered his resolve into iron. His work was more than craft or war. It was a rebellion etched in fire, hoping to carve space from mortal strength. Shango roared defiance at the heavens. The storm god's wrath was a reminder. Divine fury could be matched but never broken when born of righteous cause and iron will. Under divine watch, mortals learned their sacred crafts. Each weapon was a bond. Steel from earth, flame from spirit, shaped by hands destined to protect and fight. As dawn broke, Adidayo raised his sword, not just a weapon but a beacon. Forged by gods, carried by men, it promised a future written with bold hearts and steady hands. The sea god's wrath battered mortal resolve. Yet sharpened by iron and will, Ogun's warriors stood, a testament to mortal defiance, rising against divine might. Threads of fate intertwined gods and mortals alike. Orunmila's vision revealed a fragile harmony, strength tempered by wisdom, power balanced by respect across. In the forge's glow, moments of calm whispered of futures unwritten. Here, gods and men met not in battle, but in shared purpose shaped by fire and trust. Victory was bittersweet. The cost etched deep within warriors' souls. A reminder that power fought for was also power to guard. Ogun's gaze pierced the horizon, his forge's work far from done. A new age dawned where gods and men forged destinies together, bound by fire, steel, and unyielding. The tale of Ogun and his warriors is a legacy of strength and wisdom intertwined. In this land where gods and mortals once walked as one, legends continue to whisper on the wind.